So this is a demo on how to pull a handle out of a lug of clay, and then we're going to attach it to our leather hard trimmed pot. So you're going to take some fresh clay, the rest you go ahead and wrap up. Then about about a pound, a little less probably, something small that can fit into your palm. You're going to kind of roll it, pat it, and kind of create this like fat carrot type shape, or like a cone of, and then you're going to kind of pinch it out till you get like a nice fat point, just like that. And then with some water, you're going to use a lot of water here, so try not to make a mess. Do this over your bucket. You're going to get it wet, and then you're going to pull it 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then pull it 1, 2, 3. And then I'm making like the kind of like this kind of beak, like kind of teardrop shape with my hand, and then you're gonna run it through, and you're gonna pull all the way through, and you're gonna do a couple, 1, 2, 3, then flip. You always want to go back and forward because your hand is not symmetrical, so you want more of an eye shape, but your hand makes a teardrop shape, and I'm using kind of that area of my hand, and you're just gonna go little bit by little bit, even pressure all the way through each pull. And you keep going like this until you get like this kind of nice shape started here. And then you're going to keep going until you get the length and the thickness that you desire for your handle. So make sure you do this over your bucket, or else you're going to make a giant puddle on the floor. And I'm also kind of bringing my finger in to kind of keep it from getting too wide. So as I'm doing that, I'm kind of wrapping my pointer finger around the edge as I pull to keep it from getting too wide. So keep going, and then you can kind of see that handle form is starting to shape just like that. That's still a little thick, so I'm going to keep going just a little bit more. And if you accidentally pull it off in half, then that's fine. Just start over. And then once you're done, you kind of push your lug of clay to the side and let it hang over the table and stiffen up. I like to do this, but if I'm making a bunch of these, I want to be able to use that rest little bit of clay that I had in my hand. So I'm going to take my stick tool and supporting my hand from underneath, just like that, support it from underneath. You're just going to cut that straight off that lug. And now you have, it's quite thick. Almost dropped it there, so be careful. But now it has that shape. So you're going to keep that shape, and you're just going to rest it on the table. I like to put it on a board so I don't have to touch it a lot later, but kind of rest it just like that and let that stiffen up. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a bunch of these. We're going to go ahead and try to make 20 of these to get practice with it. So you're going to let your handle set up for, I would say, about 20 minutes so that it's not sticky anymore and it's stiffened up a little bit. And once that's happened, you can go ahead and grab your trimmed pot, kind of put it up against it, see where it is, and see how big you need to cut it down to. So that's why I grab my X-Acto knife, and then I'm going to cut that top. That top's really thick, so I'm going to cut a bunch of that off, and I'm going to cut it to the shape of the pot. So I kind of got rid of that little excess at the bottom, and then I'm going to cut this at kind of a curved shape, just like that, kind of marking it. And then I'm going to go through and cut a lot of that excess off. We don't need a lot of this. We don't want a too thick of an attachment, but we do want enough clay there so that we get a nice, beautiful, rounded attachment. So after I cut all that off, I'm just going to kind of pat it, pinch it, get it back into a shape. I kind of like put it in my hand like that and kind of pat it, which kind of flares it out and gives me a good surface to slip and score. And you always want that kind of eye shape, that kind of pointed oval. So I find the place that I want to attach it. It's going to go somewhat like that. So what I do is I find the attachment point, and then I'll get my finger wet, and I'll just put a little bit of water there, kind of rock it back and forth onto where I want it, and that way I can see a little wet spot. That tells me where to slip and score. So I'm going to go ahead and slip and score. You want to only slip and score the size that you need. Don't make too big of lines because then you have to clean them up later, and that can get kind of messy. So slip and score. And then I know it's going to attach about right there, so straight down from my top attachment, I'm going to make a small scored mark at the bottom there so that it is ready to attach once I put that on. So, and then do the same thing. Don't just slip and score up to the edge. You don't want to go past the edge because then that'll ruin that beautiful kind of oval shape that you've created. So just inside of it. Be careful not to overextend your score marks. Some water, and then score again. And then now you're going to kind of hold it with your hand underneath, and it's kind of wrapping around my hand. And that's going to support that from getting distorted. And then I'm going to kind of rock it back and forth and kind of jiggle it and kind of push it gently onto the pot. Kind of making sure, and I'm using my thumbs in all kinds of different ways here. So you are going to do what feels natural for you, but you want to get that onto the pot very gently. And I kind of pinch the edges into the pot. So, and now that bottom is ready to attach, just about right there. So I'm going to score that bottom of the handle just a little bit. And then I'm going to find that spot. And then with my thumb, I'm going to press and wiggle it a bit. And then with both thumbs, I just kind of press that into the bottom and down. And then I kind of pinch that excess off. And then that will just get smeared into the pot. And this is the point where you can spend some time with a little bit of water on your fingers, smoothing that out. You want that nice even transition there. So this is just one way of putting on a handle. There, you can also pull your handles off of the pots, and I will make another video for that. There's also coiled handles. There's different shapes of handles. There's dozens and dozens of different types of handles. So now here I'm just going to roll a little bit of that fresh clay from my handle, so I know it's the same thickness or stiffness. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to the inside where that crack is. And then I'm just going to thicken up that attachment so that it flows really nicely in and out of the pot. And it also gives me a little bit more sturdy of a connection so it won't crack or break off during use or firing. So I just kind of fill that in, and then I work it into the handle, into the body, and try to get a nice, smooth, even connection and contour is the best that I can. This is something that you can really get really tedious and very detailed with, and I highly suggest taking the time to make this look nice, because if this looks kind of chunky or unfinished, it will kind of throw off the whole look of your piece. So I am just going to continue smoothing this out, and then I'm also going to do the same thing to the top. Sometimes I like that little line from the attachment where you can see it's attached, but here I'm going to smooth it all out so that handle feels like it's just coming and growing out of the pot and back into the pot with a very seamless connection. And once I get that all smoothed out, I can let that stiffen up even more, and I can use a finishing sponge, and I can use my finger and things like that to really work that kind of contour and the smoothness and make sure everything is nice and clean. So I can still do a little bit of cleanup to this, but it's pretty good. And I'm just going to adjust the shape of that handle, kind of look at it from all angles. It looks pretty good. So before you're done, you always want to make sure that you put your initials or some kind of signature on your piece so you know it's yours. And then you put plastic over it, let it dry slowly, and you're done.